communications must contain a legal disclaimer. So remember how you can tweet that you're raising money. So a tweet is how many characters? 140, right? So the legal disclaimer is basically about 500 characters, 450 characters, the standard legal disclaimer. So your tweet is going to have to be negative a few hundred characters to be able to get the message across. So does that work on a Facebook post? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. We'll see what this really looks like. We'll see if the SEC really comes down to enforcing that everything has the exact same disclaimer as opposed to a link to the disclaimer. We'll find out exactly what this looks like over time. But it can make some communications look a little ugly. You'll ignore it when it's at the bottom of a PPM if you ever look at them, or at the bottom of an annual report, but you might not be able to ignore it when it's actually longer than the message itself. Other considerations are bad actor disqualifications. So if you have someone on your founding team who is a bad actor, which means fraud, money laundering, all that good stuff, obviously most of us here are good, honest people. They're not going to be on our team. No big deal. Same thing for your board of directors, your executive team. Here's where it kind of gets a little tricky though. If you have someone who has 20% ownership of your company or more, that disqualifies you from using general solicitation. So think about this. We're going to now tell people who we don't know that we're raising capital, and then assuming we can verify that they're accredited investors, we're going to take their money. The next time we go to raise capital, we actually might be disqualified because we suddenly find out that we actually have a bad actor on our investor base or in our company somewhere. So it's a strong consideration that you really do need to get to know, even though you can tell everyone that you're raising capital, you really do need to get to know the people that you are raising capital from and make sure you understand them, and that they're going to be value added to your business beyond just their Rolodex, their connections, what they've done in the space before. Everything that you market, yes, another question.
Yeah, how do you do that? I mean, get to know them. I mean, like over cocktails, that's going to come up. Like,
yeah.
Like, kidding aside, how do you really
do that? So it's not like, oh, it's interesting that you've had a couple of big exits, but you also have a lot of jail tattoos. What kind of so the question was, how do you know whether the person that you're talking to is a bad actor? Well, the short answer is that you can use the SEC and FINRA's websites and you can look people up. A lot of people probably are not going to necessarily do that, so it's going to come down to a level of trust, asking around. I would argue this is where, in a couple slides, I'm going to recommend that you may consider getting a broker-dealer involved with that vouching system. They're the people who can tell you that someone qualifies. They'll do all of that as well. So there are ways to kind of get people to have their information, go look them up in various databases. What will come in reality, again, I'm not a great predictor of the future. I guess is probably some people will find themselves in hot water, but most people are not bad actors, and so it won't be a big deal. But we can start over here, and then I'll bring back to you, sir.
I've done a lot of due diligence on M&A companies.
Yes.
It's amazing what you can find out.
That's right.
So that was, I think, more of a comment, but one that I'll echo. It's amazing what you can find. She's done a lot of due diligence in M&A companies. It's amazing what you can find out.
Dirty laundry is out there.
It's true. With some people, it is amazing what you can find out. Some people do a better job of hiding it. Obviously, quick Google searches will tell you if someone's done something, truly terrible. But a lot of white collar crime is not necessarily easy to find and reportable, and especially if it happened before the internet age. So yes, I'm going to go over here since
I'm sorry.
no problem.
We don't do any of that. We just have them sign a form that says that they're accredited. They swear they're accredited. They swear they're not a bad actor, and if they are a bad actor, they forfeit all their stock back to the company. That seems to do the trick.
So
then they have to give the stock back, and then you got the bad actor out of the company.
So that may go away if you use 506C, which is this Title II version. So if you use what most companies use right now, which is 506B, well, I call things in a way that's easy to understand. Basically, people sign in a manner that says, I know what I'm doing, and this is what I'm swearing to you, then it really comes off everyone's plate to verify the information. So if they say, I'm an accredited investor, swearing that they're not bad actors, you also usually do a suitability analysis where they say, this is a high-risk investment, and I want high-risk investments. So there's a whole bunch of things that are done today pretty typically that if people swear, if they sign that they're giving accurate information, usually qualifies. It's unclear and leaning towards not necessarily going to be okay for people to just take signatures word for in the future. But again, it's not 100% clear, and some people are going to test the waters for it. But good point.
Can you explain 506 real quick?
Can I explain 506 real quick? So basically, Regulation D, Rule 506, from a short story version of this, is the most commonly used way to raise capital, private way to raise capital. It's actually bigger than public offerings over the last few years. Just shy of $1 trillion have been used the last 3 consecutive years that the SEC has reported information using Reg D Rule 506, $1 trillion of capital raised. That is just by people filing a form at the end of their raise, telling the SEC what they've done. Bruce and I were talking about this earlier. If you're a big institution like a hedge fund or a VC or a private equity fund, you're going to fill out that form. If you're a startup, you may fill out that form and send it to the SEC. So the SEC's information most likely is undercutting it, if anything. So $1 trillion raised, most commonly used exemption. Of course, there's various ways of registering. We all know about IPOs, but again, Reg D Rule 506 raised about twice the amount of capital as IPOs the last time the SEC measured. So it's a massive rule for getting capital. Yes, sir.
I was just going to ask, I think you mentioned at the beginning the percentage that you had to worry about bad actors, or the percentage?
20%. So as an investor, so obviously if anyone, what percentage do you need to worry about this bad actor stuff? So if they're an executive in your company, if they're on your board of directors, your formal board of directors, or as an investor, they have to have the 20% threshold. So again, there's a lot of reasons why this may not come into play. Didn't expect us, honestly, to get this much attention from the room, but it is important. So yeah, 20%, so if they're below that threshold, you don't need to worry. But again, the point is that in the past, you generally knew your investors, or you were 1 degree removed from your investors, and so you had a bit of a vouching system. Of course, that was the problem with the old boys network, but the problem with going this route is you do need to make sure you know who your investors are. Next point here is that all your marketing materials need to be submitted to the SEC, basically concurrently or before you use it. So if you're going to write a tweet that says, we're raising capital, or if you're going to run an ad or come to a meetup like this and say that you're raising capital, you need to simultaneously, or before you actually promote that to the general public or push that to the general public, you need to send that to the SEC using a computerized system that none of us would ever want to have access to, but we will for that route. Other question in the back? No?
So there's no approval process, you just have to submit it?
So in the short term, there does not look like there will be an approval process. They really want to see what is out there and have access to the information. So one, they can make sure that people are submitting it, and two, people, so they can have a chance to review information post-mortem, basically, and see if there were problems. If you were a broker-dealer, for example, if you are a registered broker-dealer in your first year with a new broker-dealer license, you have to get pre-approval on every single marketing communication. And then as an ongoing entity, for certain marketing communications, you need to have something between, some things you need pre-approval, some things you need concurrent submission. So concurrent submission is actually pretty strong for the SEC to actually have on record everything that you ever communicate to the public, or to have on record that you haven't shared with them and fulfill your duty. So yes, they're not going to be verifying, validating, and approving, which is a good thing, a great thing. That would be a real problem. They'd never be able to get through that. But you do need to make sure to follow this procedure. Yes, Bruce?
Hey, David, I was going to mention that probably the biggest benefit is that all kinds of communications that aren't directly soliciting an investment, but might be construed as, it's really the get-out-of-jail-free card for those types of communications.
So what Bruce is saying, I agree. I tried to make that point earlier, but I think you're getting more directly to the point is, when you're a startup, and you're constantly raising capital, you're basically going in and out of capital raise rounds, and you're promoting your startup to users, and you're trying to hire top talent for what you need. You might say to top talent that you think you have IPO capability, or there's a good exit for your company. And what Bruce is getting at is, if some regulator somewhere wants to read that the wrong way, it can cause problems. Where now you can say, hey, look, we're allowed to tell people that what we're doing, what our existence is. It does start to get murky though, and you need to concurrently tell the SEC that you're doing it with every communication. But it does start to remove every communication that either have a safe harbor, line to it to the full degree, where I literally can never talk about capital in public, where I don't know every single person in the room. So it does free up entrepreneurs and CEOs to talk about their ongoing operations and pitch and sell, which is what their job is, in new ways without constantly, worrying about every single word that they say, at least from a regulatory standpoint.
This will be my last question, but
Ask
isn't
away.
that a bit much?
Sorry?
Like, isn't that a bit much to be sending every marketing piece to the SEC?
Isn't that a bit much? Probably, yes. It's
Okay,
probably
I'm not the only one that thinks that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
It's
Be
a bit
careful
much.
who you vote for.
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest,
It's nannyism.
probably, there's a couple, so if I were to put on my, my guess the future hat, right? So there's two ways that the SEC, there's two reasons that the SEC is mandating this right now. One is so they can see that it turns out that it's not horribly wrong and terrible, and they can back off of this from the future, and they can say, give us your base themes or nothing, right? Or it could be so the SEC can find enough flaws in the system and say, okay, now you actually do need approval on everything. And since there's, tens of thousands of startups, that approval will take 6 months, and therefore you won't use this exemption. So I think that the SEC left this in, because it is a bit much, to give themselves an opportunity to kind of pull back if they absolutely need to. But hopefully they'll go the other way. And hopefully they'll basically say that was a bit much, and we'll either ask for risk factors to make sure that you actually have them, or nothing, and just come after you if it turns out you were fraudulent. That's my hope, but it is definitely a bit much, if not more than a bit much. So the next couple of things are in italics because these are new proposed rules that go with 506C. So on the same day that the SEC actually announced final rules a year late, they also had new proposed rules that go alongside of it. So now these are going to be open for the public to comment on, and it's unclear what the timeframe will be to have a decision on this. So today, if you raise capital, you are supposed to send a Form D to the SEC within, I think, 30 days of closing that capital round. It's actually a really basic form. This is one that you don't need Roger for. It's a really basic form, very easy to fill out. But again, a lot of companies and smaller capital raises don't necessarily fill them out. Now the SEC is going to require that you fill them out and send it to the SEC 15 days before you start raising capital. Is that a bit much? I'll re-ask the question. It's not as bad as filling out all of your marketing information. Quite frankly, it is a pretty basic form. But yeah, the SEC now wants to keep track on every single person who's raising